So what's up, Rhody Nation? You're watching URI Just Getting Started. I'm your host, Scott Brand. One note, if you want to see great stars like Pappy Owens, who's here today, how are you doing, Pappy?
Great. How you doing, Scott?
Good. Well, you hit that big red button that says subscribe because you have people like Pappy, and we have a great incoming freshman for 2023 coming up and some other great guests. So you don't want to miss them. Starting out, like I said, how are you, Pappy? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. Truly blessed and highly favored. So I'm good. I feel good.
How was your trip? You're taking your son over to college or something like that?
Well, my grandson is start college at University of Delaware, so we are excited about that. So,
No, that's great.
The beat goes on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it goes by quickly. Well,
fast.
You're close by, so you could watch over.
Absolutely.
Make sure he doesn't get in too much trouble. Everyone know, if you don't know Pappy, you absolutely should, because he's a legend, not just at URI, but in high school. He's a McDonald's All-American. One programming note I'd like to say is after the podcast, don't go. Stay on, guests, viewers, because we have some special footage of the last 2 minutes of the 1978 URI Duke first round NCAA game. Pappy, what do you think about that game? I know you know more than I do about that. What went on in that game, in your opinion?
I thought that URI had a great shot, man. They played a good team, and they lost to the runner-up, national runner-ups that year. A good friend of mine, Gene Banks, played on that team, and he was a freshman, and Rhode Island was so talented. Jiggy Williams and Sly Williams.
They were, and I noticed they weren't outmatched up front. They held their own with rebounds, and they got a lot of second chance points.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the front line had Big Irv, Jimmy Wright, and Sly Williams. I mean, them three men right there for college basketball. You talking about 6'9", 6'8". I mean, guys 235, stuff like that. And very good athletes and basketball players. That's pretty tough to beat those dudes.
Yeah. So there's one question that you got a lot of response because people remember you very well. The number one question was, how did you get to URI? Because nothing against URI, it's just you were a McDonald's All-American. So I'm sure there was a list of other schools courting you. What brought you to URI? Was it Jack Kraft? He was the Philadelphia connection at Villanova.
I tell you what, the first time I ever heard URI, probably the guy that I played with was Roland Houston was there. And Roland and I got close in high school. They had an amazing recruiter, man, Billy Hahn.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he recruited the heck out of me, man. And so he said, man, come on and give us an opportunity at Rhode Island. So I knew they were good. I knew how good Sly Williams were. I didn't know how good the other players were.
Yeah.
So I actually watched them and went and seen them play. And I'm like, shoot, these guys are good. And like you said, the year before I committed, or 2 years before I committed, I saw them play several times. So now in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to play with Sly Williams. So I figured it'd be that same team: Sly, Jimmy Wright, myself, Roland Houston. I mean, a really good basketball team. And come to find out, right after I signed, he decided to go hardship. So now I'm here, and I thought it was a good program. I love the people there. I love Coach Kraft. He was unbelievable. Billy Hahn, Coach English. Some guys, I had met a few of the alumni guys that were really good. Actually, they're still friends of mine. Frank Caruso and Bobby Torino, really good people, man. And became close to those guys, man. And a lot of schools, I was blessed enough to have a lot of schools to show some interest in me. You know what I'm saying? The Philadelphia schools, the Georgias, the Vegas, the Penn States. I mean, tons of schools.
Yeah.
I just felt that I can contribute right away, and I wanted to play. I mean, I felt I was good enough and played enough basketball at a really good level in high school and outside of high school where I can contribute right away. And I thought that the quickest way for me to contribute and play on a really good team was to attend University of Rhode Island. I went for the visit. I loved it. They bamboozled me a little bit because the seafood was outstanding, and I love seafood, and I'm like, wow, man, I'm in heaven. So
Yeah.
Just everything went right. Another guy named Mark Upshaw, who was coming in with me, who was very highly recruited out of Georgia, who was really talented, man. Godly. So now I'm looking at the class that we got coming in. A guy that got out of junior college named John Monk, who was the junior college in Arizona, but is originally from Connecticut. Another guy that came in with us. So we was talented, and they only needed like a piece. It was almost like a piece of pie, and they needed 3 pieces. And I mean, they got Mark and myself. I mean, the choices came from Mark and myself down to Georgia and URI.
Wow.
So we would have played with Dominique Wilkins, Mark and I. So so we just went north, and they stayed down there. So I thought it was a great opportunity. I thought we'd be really good for a long period of time.
Yeah, I could understand the way your thoughts now, and you throw Sly Williams in the picture, then that would be a very talented team that could win some games in the NCAA. So it makes sense. And I don't know too many people who know that story, and it's just a question mark that you've answered today that I just find it so fascinating. And it shows that if you're putting together a program like Rhode Island is now, you could compete with the big boys if you get some talented players and a coach. And it helped that the year before they almost knocked off Duke. I'm sure that weighed into the decision, didn't it?
Well, I mean, it did, but I mean, you just thinking. So now, I was around basketball all my life, and I mean, around guys, Joe Bryan and Mo Howard and guys like that there. Like I said, Gene Banks and all those guys were highly sought after players in high school. So my thinking is, you always want to have guys potentially pros on your team. And I thought that with that team, we had at least 4, right? So I thought that Sly, right? Jimmy Wright got drafted. Mark Upshaw would have gotten drafted. And I was fortunate enough to get drafted. So those are the kind of type of players, that you have to, have an opportunity to play on in the tournament.
And Mark was also being recruited by Georgia.
Absolutely. Mark was probably one of the best small forward. If Mark did not get injured, he probably would have went he would have went in the first round. Easy drafted in the first round, but he unfortunately tore his knee up, and the rest is kind of history, but talented kid, man. Godly.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that about Mark, and that's fascinating because I saw him when I was a freshman. I saw him walking around with this huge brace on his knee, and maybe today, if he was a player, they would have had, with what they do know now in medical recovery and surgery, he would have recovered a little better. And he still had a look in the NBA, even with that injury, if I could recall.
Yeah.
Correctly.
If he didn't have an injury, he'd have been there for a long period of time. I mean, he was like the second, and I'm not exaggerating. He was the second coming to Julius Erving. I mean, I couldn't believe the jump he made from our freshman year. Normally you get better during the summertime. He came back our sophomore year. Yeah. Oh my God, man. I couldn't believe what I mean, dunking on everybody. Mid-range was good. And just had improved his game so much. And he always was a hard worker, man. But athletically, man, I mean, he was really good small forward, man.
And he had the genes being related to Claude English. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Now, he couldn't jump as high as Claude, but he could get up there. Now, Claude was jumping as an old man, so you know what he probably was doing as a young fella,
One of our fans mentioned they had a lot of questions for you, and they went to Claude English's basketball camp. I think it was at Alumni Field, and they put a hat on the top of the basket. And he wasn't a kid anymore, and he jumped and he snatched that hat. That's how high Claude English could jump. So
no. Listen, we would do, dunk and things like that there, and I wasn't up there with those guys. I was just a basketball player, didn't know what I could do and things like that. But Claude would out jump all of them. And we had some guys. Jimmy Wright could really get off his feet. Mark could jump, but Claude could fly. I mean, I thought he was coming out of the ceiling instead of coming from the ground. I mean, he could really get up. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I think obviously, you know, I'm a huge URI basketball fan, and it all started when I was 5 years old. I went to Jack Kraft basketball camp, and everyone else was older than me. It's kind of hard when you're 5, and they didn't treat me any different than the other kids. And
Wow.
you know who
What a
took
tough
me
guy,
in?
man. Godly.
Well, my feelings were hurt a little bit, but I was just surprised. Okay, who's going to help me? And you know who was there to help me out? Claude. Claude English.
Yeah.
He took me under his wing. He saw I was a little younger. And one of my favorite pictures is there's obviously a height difference when I'm 5 and he's there. It's just Claude. He was like a buddy to me. I didn't know, you know, how great a player he was. He was just a nice man that I gravitated towards. But
good guy. Good
I won the foul shooting tournament. And because I was 5 years old, I just competed against myself, and I won 2 years in a row. So that's my accolade. But
I hear you, Scotty. All right, Scotty. I hear you.
I got the trophy. You know, I never told my friends when I came home that there wasn't anyone else. I was
foul shots win games, man. Shoot, I hear you. I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, so that's my trophy. But and then you have some genes going, or I should say, Silk has some genes from you. You guys are related, and Silk had told me.
Well, Scott, I got to tell you, we are and we aren't.
Okay,
that makes sense to you. You know what I'm saying? We are very close, and we always been. But because our names are Owens, and we are both that beautiful same complexion, so we kind of locked in somehow when we became related. But I went back to finish up at URI when Silk and them made that really good run. Man, it was a very talented team, and fortunate Silk and I and Tommy got really close. And Mergen Cena, Kenny Green, really good team, man. That kid Evans out of Boston, just a good team, just talented. So I became close with those guys then.
Yeah, I was a manager, and I remember when there's a parallel between you and Silk, because he came to Rhode Island and he was recruited by Syracuse, but Brendan Malone started at Rhode Island after being, you know, he recruited Pearl Washington, Brendan Malone. So he said the first thing he did is like, look, Silk, I'm going to Rhode Island. He already was planning to go to Syracuse. Silk, he's like, I want to take you. And Silk just unblindly trusted him and said, all I need to know is, are you going to give me the ball? Just like you said, you wanted to know if you had the ball. And that was all. We didn't even know where Rhode Island was. And he followed him. And, I think he was pretty happy with that decision. And I saw him as a freshman. He was amazing. I mean, I was on the bench just watching him. His poise, he had it all. But just and he was really a nice kid then, because he was so much more talented than the other players. That's before they got the recruiting going. And, you know, he made some great plays, and, you know, sometimes they would miss easy shots, and he didn't lose his cool at all. He was never angry with the players, and then, you know, players started coming, and John Evans was a great guy. He played at the same high school as Pat Ewing.
Right.
So you were there.
Yeah. I tell you what, they, I mean, like, if you think about the guards and the players that played at URI, man, I mean, they could play anywhere. You know what I mean? The Tyson Willers, the Katina Mobleys, the Silk. I mean, Silk was really good. I mean, they made a run. They didn't duck anybody. You know what I'm saying? They were playing guards. Tommy Garrett. You know, I mean, like, the hits keep coming with those guys. The kid Robertson out of Philadelphia. You know, I mean, Tyson was incredible.
But I wanted to also, you know, it's time to go to the video, and feel free to chime in. But there's announcers there too.
Cross court to Ellerby, fires 3-point attempt. Rebound controlled by Pappy Owens. Here come the Rams. Pittman to the forecourt. Outside Owens. That's a 3-pointer, and he hits it.
Okay, I have to stop that. That's what I was telling you before. You line up, and you look a lot like Katina Mobley.
Katina, I'm the one that sent Katina to Rhode Island.
Really?
Yes, I sent Katina. I told Al Skinner and Billy Cohen. I said, "Cat is a pro," and they said, "Pap, are you serious?" I said, "I'm just telling you, he is, man. he played on a really talented Sunny Hill League that I coached. I mean, talented.
I read about that.
I mean, they were talented, and he was that good. And when he went to Maine, for a prep year and came back home. I can't believe how much better. Before he went there, he was Catholic League Player of the Year, and then he went there and got even better. But I mean, stuff he can do. So he's from North Philly, like I am, and we jump shooting. We taught that early, just like he was. And it's an open shot, and in our mind, we're supposed to hit open shots. You don't shoot it to miss it. You shoot it that's supposed to be good. So. It's not surprising. That's what it's supposed to do. Go in. It surprises if it does, Scott. So I don't mean to sound cocky, but that's just the mentality that we was reared with, and the confidence, because you put so much practice into it. You know what I mean? And put your time in, and when you put your time in, you put your time in to be good. So
no, that's not being cocky at all. That's confidence. If you're not making the shots, then that's a little cocky, and it's also a little delusional. Like
right.
What our friends used to say as we were talking. But, another thing about Cat was, and you might enjoy watching Tyson's interview podcast, because he talks about the first time he ever met him. And it was very funny. They met at a club and the whole thing. But, Coutinho was never satisfied, in my opinion. I've never met him or talked to him, but he wasn't happy with Tyson's alley-oop passes. And he told him right away. So you'll see that too. So Tyson says he's hard to please guy. So that's another end. One other aside is when you talk about expecting it to go in, another great podcast, Silk Owens, was saying to me, every time he shot, he expected it to go in. And
no question.
And I guess that's why he was so good, because he had the confidence. So you know something about that, don't you, Pappy?
I think of just a little, not a lot, just a little bit. I can relate to him slightly.
Pappy Owens hits on the baseline move. Pappy Owens has all 5 Rhode Island points.
Who transferred into Rutgers, named Clarence Tillman. He just passed away. A great player. Great basketball.
Wow.
And Pappy Owens is seeing nothing but the bottom of the net.
Average 6 rebounds.
Getting a little bit excited there. Forget about the big guy inside.
Pappy Owens again. 9 points for Owens. Rhode Island leads by 2. Owens averaging 22.9 points a game, tied for second in the.
I think this is that really good team. That team was good.
You recall this game?
Yes, that team was a good basketball team.
Duquesne, huh?
Yeah.
I
like the courts.
On the floor, I call that man defense employed by Duquesne.
Mark Upshaw giving it back to Pappy, 15-footer from the left. He is having some night. 49.
Scott, baseline runner. Rebound, Pappy Owens. Pappy wants to run, gives to Mark Upshaw. He drives, dumps it underneath to Owens.
Wow.
Tell me about your feelings with the Sixers and the Nets. I really felt you were an NBA player, and a lot of other people. I definitely do. After looking at
I felt I was. I mean, I didn't have a great senior team, which is more important. I mean, our record wasn't well, but I mean, to go 44th player still picked in the draft, despite that, I thought was okay. Wasn't bad,
Yeah.
I just thought that things just didn't fall into place for me with either of the teams. The Sixers, especially with New Jersey, I thought that I know that they were approached at one time to trade me for a guy named Jimmy Thomas, who was at Indiana at the time. They came out the same year. I know the coach was from Philadelphia, and they refused to make the trade. So in saying that, I'm thinking, well, I'm okay if they didn't do that, But what I didn't realize is that you're talking about, you're taking a young person that's 20, 22, 23 years old who had success all his life in basketball, never been cut, have had it, and always played, pretty good basketball at a pretty good level. And then all of a sudden, bam, adversity comes, and you wasn't anticipating that. You know what I mean? So you don't know how to handle it because you never handled it before. So when young folks have adversity happen to them when they're young, they can kind of handle it a little better if it happens again down the line. They know how to adjust. I just didn't handle it well, you know, and it was the test that I believe my Lord was giving me to see just how much I loved it and just how much I wanted it, you know. And I didn't do, I played, but I didn't put the time back in. And you start the blame game of seeing who fault it was besides your own, besides looking in the mirror and say, what did I do to cause that? And once I did that, it helped me get along with that tough part in my life. And it also made me think about some of the things that I didn't do that got me to the place where I was. You know what I mean? So I always tell my young guys now, and I told Kat this, I said, listen, man, don't ever forget your foundation. So what is your foundation? What made you Katina Mobley? Right? What made you Pappy Owens? Do you still go to the same little schoolyard by yourself and spend the time by yourself just shooting, or in the gym by yourself? The by yourself time is a great time because that's where it's made. You follow what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
So a lot of times people say, well, how good is he? It ain't the time you spend with your workout guy. It's the time you spend when unseen time, right? So the time that you spend shooting with when they turn off all the lights in the playground and there's nothing but the moonlight shining, and that's what you're shooting at, or shoveling off the snow. Keep doing that. Even when you have some success, keep doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because that is what keeps you hungry, and that's what's going to move you on. You know what I mean? And some of those things I did, I altered and didn't do it as much. And I like to put on myself and carry that burden. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's not a burden more than it is now. Me understanding what I didn't do and making sure the young guys that I coach or come in contact with do what they supposed to do and don't they forget it. So I believe I was put here maybe not to be in the NBA for a long period of time or for a small cup of coffee, but to be able to acknowledge and see some young guys that are good enough and make sure that they do the right thing. I mean, to have an influence on a Katina Mobley, have an influence a little bit with Kobe, a little bit with Dawn Stanley, just have to be able to talk to Tyson and things like that. There's Silk, Tommy Garrett, Kenny Green, just to have some kind of say with them and talk to them about the game and what they should do and what would make you better. It's not a lot of times what everybody sees, what you do when they don't see you.
It's what you're saying just now. It's that could apply to anything, even not only basketball, and this can apply to the business world. Yes, it's a life, and success could be a burden to someone, or especially early success. And like you said,
early success.
Yeah,
you're right, Scott. The thing you got to always do is it's not going to always go smooth, right? So I always talk to our guys about mental toughness. Well, what is mental toughness, or what's toughness? So toughness is not. This is not boxing. The game of basketball is a thinking man's game, right? So what would make you a tough basketball player? Well, can you convert when you need it? You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Can you run your play when you down a point and you need a bucket? Can you get that one stop you need to stop to win the game? That's mental toughness. That's being tough. You know what I mean? And it's just like in work. Can you deliver when your boss forgot to tell you something? You say, God, dog, and I forgot that. I got to get that done, though. You follow me? That's a mental tough guy. Those are the guys you want. You know what I'm saying? So you got to handle if you can handle the tough times, the easiest time is more easier, you know, but you can't fall. You can't bend. You know what I mean? You can't break on it. You have to stay strong, man. But that's why I used to, at a certain age, Scott, you know, you think from your shoulders up. You know what I'm saying? That's where it comes at. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When you start thinking like that there and start applying it, and you calm, if you're not upset, you know what I mean, and you thinking and the oxygen flowing real good to your brain, you're gonna think yourself out of it. It's just a matter of just thinking and not attacking it, you know. So I learned a lot. And I attempt to share it with the young folks.
And it translates into your coaching career because you have some overachieving teams that you're a part of. We're going to get to that. I have another videotape for you. You're wondering, like, Scott, what are you doing to me here?
I'm telling you, man.
You're flooding me with this stuff. But
where you getting this stuff from?
So you're going to like that one too. Maybe not as much as this one, but the quality is a little better. But everything you're saying just now translates into the success that you had at LaSalle, and you're probably having with your new gig, Delaware State. But let's continue. This is great. This is really what I want out of these podcasts is the life lessons.
It was cool. You know what I'm saying, Scott? I just wanted to win. Honest to God, my thing was about winning, and I wanted the opportunity to go to the playoffs and go deep in it my senior year, and I did everything in my power to do that. I really did. I played on great teams. The guys that I played with, none of them. My last year, nobody was a Division I player. Division III was the next best guy. I mean, but they were good dudes, man. And they listened, and I listened, and it just came together for us.
Yeah, I mean, look at these things you accomplished. Player of the Year, Dobbins Tech. You were Daily News Player of the Year. You averaged amazingly 29.3 points. You lit it up. In some games, you just tore into your opponent. You averaged 25 as a junior. Career points, you rank second to Bo Kimball. So, those numbers speak for themselves. And that's why I say, you had a great career at Rhode Island, but we can't discount what you did there. And then at Rhode Island, you're one of the all-time greats. You know that. You're still we get good players coming in since you've been there, but you're still right up there, 9th leading scorer in school history. Here's a really big one. We don't get this at all. And sometimes Rhode Island doesn't get the love they deserve. You were an honorable mention as a senior, AP honorable mention. Now, of course, if we don't even get first team in Atlantic 10, you did that as well. And you were in the Eastern 8 then. So that's another thing. That was pretty cool league, wasn't it?
Oh, man, that was really good, man. We took Villanova's place because Villanova was in the Eastern 8, and then when they left to go to when they left to go to the Big East, and we took their spot. So
and then your average, look at that, 22.8 at Rhode Island, and second in Atlantic 10, 23rd in the nation. The list goes on there. Here's something they say: he shoots jump shots like we breathe. He certainly lived up to billing, and had Mark Upshaw not suffered his horrible injury, that would have been another great team.
Yes, I totally agree. No question.
We're going to go to that too, because I have a breakdown of the teams. But, like I said, the 1,000-point club, there's another great guy there, Steve. You're just 1 point away from Steve Chubin, who and other great players. So you're right up there. You're right up there. Points scored, average. There's more.
Okay.
Field goal attempts.
I'm going to have some attempts now. We're not going to miss that now. Gee, me Christmas, man.
Well, you had the confidence, so Silk did too. So, it's not anything. Yeah. You should be shooting. The problem I have is when there's been teams on Rhode Island where the guys that get hot, like Malik Martin last year, he was hot, and then all of a sudden he stopped shooting. I want a guy who has a hot hand. Just ride it out. It's a license to print money when someone has a hot hand. That's my opinion on it. So
I don't agree.
I think good. You're the one who should be shooting them, and you did. If you didn't, we may not be talking today.
Right.
And then the average minutes, you were a workhorse. You were in great shape too, and that means a lot. You were as well, big as anything. First of all, this was the greatest team in the history of McDonald's high school games, and you'll see by the list that's what it's known for even today. But you were right up there for MVP honors until then. Darren Day took that from you, but so to be that with the players that were on that team, and I'm just going to go down the list. You almost were a teammate of Dominique Wilkins. Ralph Sampson had 10 block shots that game. Didn't do well in the field, but Sam Bowie, Isiah Thomas. I mean, it sounds like I'm making this up. James Worthy, Byron Scott. 16 of the players were drafted, including yourself. Yep. So what were you intimidated at all? It doesn't seem like you were intimidated by anything, but going into that game, I would have been. I would have looked outside and run back in the locker room.
I tell you what, Scott, Philadelphia is just a different place, man. So we think it's nothing better than people in Philadelphia. No, basketball is better than nothing. So I figured that the guy that I grew up with named Reggie Jackson was the #1 high school guard in the country the year before. So in 1978. And I played against Reggie all my life. And we went back and forth and we played together. And we went to the same pal and the same recreation, the same schoolyards, Lonnie McFarland. So we always played with older guys. So I just couldn't imagine anybody else being better than us. And that was my mindset. So I'm like,
I love it.
There's no, I mean, all these guys, I wanted to see them. So I can remember when I got on the bus and the first person I met was Quentin Daly. So I met Quentin Daly. I met Quentin, James Worthy, Sidney Lowe, Derek Wittenberg, who I'm still close with right now. All these guys, I met them and I said, okay, now you just seen their pictures. Sidney Green out of New York. So I just saw their pictures. So now I can put the face and the body frame with the pictures. And now we go and we're playing against Isiah Thomas and Raymond McCoy and the guys out, Byron Scott and all those guys. And now I'm putting them together. And I'm like saying, well, golly. So I was fortunate enough to be able to, I played every position in basketball. That's how we were taught. And, you know, I mean, I had Isiah on me and I said, man, this guy's a little guy. Man, I can take this guy. This guy was so quick. But I played against guys like that in Philly. You know what I mean? So you kind of use your body and kind of post him a little bit. But it was, I'm going to tell you what was the amazing part about that. So now Gene Banks, who I played against and grew up with, was the #1 high school player when Magic Johnson was coming out in 1977. So when Danny Ainge, Magic Johnson, oh man, they had a slew of guys, man. But Albert King out of New York, Jeff Rulin, all them guys came out. But the #1 player was Gene Banks, right? So again, these are guys from Philadelphia that we played again. The amazing part about this class in 1979 was the forwards were unbelievable. I was surprised that, I mean, like, I couldn't believe they had forwards. James Worthy was unbelievable. Clark Kellogg was unbelievable. Clark Kellogg was really, really good. Clark Kellogg. Dominique was really good. I mean, a guy named Teddy Grubbs out of Chicago who was really good forward. I mean, the forward hits kept going. Dale Ellis out of Tennessee. I mean, the hits keep coming on. The forwards, Mark Upshaw. Like when I seen Mark, I'm like, how the heck? I mean, Mark was really, really good, but he was like 79. They just have an overabundance of forwards who was like really good. I mean, Quentin Daly, you're talking about Rodney McCray, Scooter McCray's younger brother. I mean, like the hits go on, but I just couldn't believe how good the forwards were. Like they were unbelievable. Antoine Carr. I mean, these guys. We played a USA game, so I played with the USA team, and we started. We played against the New York All-Stars. So we started. Myself and a guy named Dirk Minifield, who played at Kentucky.
Of course, yeah.
Who actually started with me in the McDonald's game. So it was Dirk, myself at the guards. It was Ralph Sampson in the middle. It was Clark Kellogg at one forward. And it's Clark. And it wasn't James Worthy, but it was oh my God. It's on the tip of my tongue. But I mean and Antoine Carr. And Antoine Carr at the other forward. So now you're talking about. Then we played against Sidney Green and Stuart Granger and Tony Bruin. They were really good teams, really good players. But that was some time, man. Them guys could play. And I tell you something, Scott, we always, even in my recruiting, right? So I was always taught that good basketball players can play good anywhere. You don't judge how good a guy is when you're playing in his backyard. What does he do when he goes on the road? Can he play? What does he bring when he goes? When I come to Scott Playground, what do I bring? Yeah, that's how you can tell guys that could play. You know,
that says it all. I saw lots of great players that didn't make our basketball team who played with us in the backyard, and there's a difference. Yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying. Wow,
when you're out of your comfort zone.
And then this is an area. It's a nice tweet you have there. Your coaching career. And how's it going, your new gig at Delaware State?
Oh, come on, Scott. Come
Yeah.
on, man. I love it, man. Love
Oh,
it,
that's
man.
great.
Love it, man. We have a I work for a great guy, Stan Waterman, man, who's a legendary high school coach out of Delaware, man, who won like 10, 12 state championships. Really good coach, man. Really involved with USA basketball. I coach with 2 young guys, man. I think it's going to be really, really good. Vernon Dupree and Shaheed Perkins, man, who are really good. We brought in a great class, man. We brought in a really good class for this year, man, and I think we're gonna be really good. I mean,
I'm gonna watch you guys.
Excited. Yeah, we did, man. But Coach Waterman is a really good guy, man, and a very good basketball mind. And you're gonna hear great things about him. I don't think this will be his last stop because I think he's that good.
Wow.
But very, very excited.
Well, I became what is it? A Hornet. I'm a Hornets fan now.
It's Hornets,
I'm jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, man. Check us out, Scott, and just tell me what you think when you see this for sure.
And here's your stats. You know, your senior year, you did really well. I pointed out earlier, 6.7 rebounds, but you were consistent, just great foul shooter. Says it all right there. And then this, I find this to be an interesting stat. Can you take us through the 4 years and you see the players there, starting with your first year, you were 15 and 13, and what happened in each year?
Yep. So the 15 and 13 year was that. Make sure. Okay, so that was my freshman year, and we were talented, man, but we just haven't. We had some good wins, man. That team beat a good Connecticut team with Corny Thompson.
Oh my God, Corny Thompson, you're killing me there.
Right, and then we beat we won the Marquette Classic in Milwaukee with a really good team. They had a guy named Sam Worthen, who was out of New York, a big-time point guard who got drafted, played in the league. That team beat them. So we were up and down. We would win good games and then lose some. You know what I mean? But that was a good team, man. Coach Kraft did a good job with molding that team and bringing it together. Had some really good players on there, man. Gilson Jesus was really good. Phil Kidd was very good and understated player. Kevin Whiting out of Fall River was a really good basketball player, man. Played at Durfee High. Probably was the first big star from Durfee High. He was really good. Kevin, I got a funny story about Kevin, man. Kevin background was similar to all of ours, and I didn't know it. You know what I mean? I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood in North Philadelphia, in the hood kind of, and I'd never been to a white hood before. And Kevin took me to Fall River, and I said, Kev, where we going? And he took me, and I met his mother, and they lived in the projects. And I said, Kev, where did you take me in the projects for? He said, man, this is where I live. It was so humbling, man. It was so humbling. I was like, Kev, you serious? He said, yeah, man, this is my hood. I can remember another story. We were in a restaurant, and it was a waitress, and the guys was kind of giving a little difficult time. And Kevin said, man, don't ever do that again. He said, man, this is how they make their living. And come to find out, his mother was a waitress, and it just touched me. I mean, I remember to this day how it happened, man. So Kevin, I mean, they were good guys on that team.
Wow, that's a great story.
My sophomore year, that was that same team, that same 15 and 13 team, and we just was older and used to each other, and we were all talented, and we all got better over the summer, man. And Claude did a good job. Coach Kraft had a bypass. He had a heart attack or something at one of the games or something, and Claude took over and did a good job, man. And that was some fun, man. We had some good wins, man. We knocked off a good Old Dominion team that was ranked. We knocked off them. We knocked off a really good ranked Connecticut team at Connecticut with Corny and them again. They were like 20th or something like that.
Yeah,
in the country.
No, they were great.
Right, they had Carl Hobbs was on that team.
Of course,
Mike McKay, that was a good team, but we spanked them up there, man. And we beat a good Rutgers team that was really good too. That was a good team though. That was probably the best team I played on at Rhode Island.
Wow.
It was my sophomore year. Yep. My junior year, we were talented, man. We just was crazy. I mean, you got 1, 2, 3. You got 4 guys that averaged in double figures. We didn't guard anybody. But it was a talented team. Just didn't play as good together as we needed to win as we did the year prior to this one. And then my senior year, just with Mark getting hurt, crushed us.
Yeah.
When me and Mark was there, I mean, he was so good, man. He was so good and talented. But we didn't have no room for error. We didn't have room for me to get hurt or Mark to get hurt. So we almost would like to be perfect. But if he was around, you could just turn that record around. That's how it would have been 19-9.
That's the way basketball is these days. Rhode Island, after their 2 trips to the NCAA, they almost made the NCAA again. And then this following season with COVID, they had 2 transfers. One of them was Obi Toppin's brother, Jacob.
Right.
And the one that really killed was Tyrese Martin, who is now playing in the NBA. If you kept those 2 guys, that would have kept the whole momentum that had built with Dan Hurley. And who knows, we could have still kept on going, because I saw them playing together just before COVID, and they took on VCU. They had just fell apart at the end of the season. So like you said, with this team here, the margin's so thin. It's a difference between 9-19 or 19-9. So I know where you're coming from there.
Yeah. My junior year, we underachieved. We underachieved at such a high level, man, because that team was talented enough to win. We had really good pieces, man, and we just didn't do it for some reason. That happens in basketball. I mean, you've seen it, Scott, thousands of times. You know what I mean? And then we were ready. Mark and I were really good together, and we would have been 19-9, something like that there, because it's just hard to stop 2 folks that's playing at such a clip. You know what I mean? It's just difficult, so.
What was it like to play for Jack Kraft? I was watching the Duke Rhode Island game, and I saw 2 teams that looked identical. They both moved the ball. They were very careful, very few turnovers. What was it like playing? He was one of the greatest coaches in Rhode Island.
Right. So now you're talking about probably one of the best basketball-minded guys that ever came out of Philadelphia, and that's Jack Kraft. The ball defense is a defense that he created, and he was at South Catholic High School where he created it at. I mean, he took Villanova to their first Final Four appearance. Coach Kraft took them there. So them playing Duke like that is not surprising, because that's the level of basketball he was accustomed to coaching and playing. You know what I'm saying? He had 2 great assistants in Claude English and Billy Hahn, and I mean, they brought a crew in. You know what I mean? And the thing is, too, Scott, recruiting, to me, I never judged guys in recruiting if you get the known. It's the guys that get the unknown. You follow what I'm saying? That's recruitment. Man, where did you get this guy? A guy that got an eye like that. You follow what I'm saying to you? So
I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. So a guy, I mean, all the great coaches that's been at URI thus far, the guy I thought that did the most amazing recruiting job and got the most out of play was Al Skinner. I mean, Al brought some guys there, man. Holy smokes. And they could play. You know what I mean? And Al, and he was good because he did the same thing at Boston College. I mean, at one time he was National Coach of the Year. So those kind of guys, the coaches that begin to say, you know what, what's my kind of guy? You know what I mean, Scott, you're a head coach. What's the Scott branded guy? That's where we're going. What's the URI guy? A URI guy's a tough guy, know how to play. Normally an inner city guy, but a really tough guy to really know how to play. And I mean, those guys, the Katina Mobleys, the Tyson Wheelers, I don't get enough credit, man.
No,
Preston Murphy. You know what I mean? the big fella that had the 2 last names that's now coaching at Clemson. Oh man, he gonna kill me.
Antonio Reynolds.
Antonio Reynolds Dean, bad man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that team was unbelievable, but nobody was really recruiting Antonio Dennis Ring like that there. You know what I'm saying? But them guys could play, man. The guys were good, man. And Antonio was really good, like really good basketball player. So that reminded me of those little URI guys. You know what I mean? The Tommy Garrett's, URI guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes. That's a URI guy. You know, so I ain't gonna beat you up with that, but that's.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I wish they came up with the money and he stayed instead of going to Boston College, because, like I said again, we would have been looking at a completely different historic.
Oh yeah, I agree, man.
And I think that Archie Miller is a coach that can be that way too. He made it to the NCAA 4 years at Dayton. He made it to championships 4 years. Dayton, they weren't 3-star recruits. A lot of them were 2-star recruits, and he's doing the same at Rhode Island. There's a lot of guys that people don't really know about, under the radar guys. So I think we should all watch what he's doing. I think his track record and who's bringing in right now and the way he thinks is similar to the way you think, and the process oriented of it. He really gets down to.
I think Archie's at the right level for him. I think he's a very good coach. I thought he did a great job at Dayton, man. I played against I coached against his teams, and he did a really good job, man. And he did a good job when he played outside of the conference as well, representing them. So I think that was a great hire for URI, and I think he'll do a great job. You got Kenny Johnson there that's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? I've worked with Kenny. Kenny's a good basketball mind out of the D.C. area, man. So he got a good start with those guys, man. I think he's going to be really good, you know. I think he's going to be really good. That was a good get.
That was.
On March 20th, 2013, LaSalle was ironically in the spotlight again, ready to celebrate Charter Day in style.
Is this bring back some memories?
Oh, man. What a crew, man. That's some good memories there, man. Good memories. Worked with a really good, smart basketball mind. John Giannini.
How well does that segue into what we were just talking about? Getting under the radar guys.
Perfect.
But what got them there was a season full of high-flying dunks, entourage frenzy, and unforgettable late-game heroics that Explorer fans won't soon forget.
Wow. Hey Scott, you did some work, man.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I feel like being a LaSalle fan, and I really hope they turn things around, because this was a phenomenal team, and I hope you take some credit for it, because you're assistant coach there, and you worked on these players, and they weren't big name players, and you developed them.
I tell you what, it was a couple keys, right? So we always knew that our guards could play with anybody, right? In college basketball is you have to have, or any basketball, you have to have really good basketball. You have guards. Guards kind of dictate it, you know what I mean? And the thing that separates college basketball to me is every level have good guards, is the big kids. How good are your big kids? Are they really, really talented? That's what separates the big guys from the smaller guys, right? So we knew that with a guy named with Ramon Galloway, we either had the first or second best player on the floor anytime we went on the floor, and that's important. So this guy was a monster. Then we got Tyrone Garland, who transferred. So Ramon transferred in from South Carolina, right? Tyrone Garland transferred in from Virginia Tech, and we brought in Tariq Dorn and Sam Mills. So we brought those guys in. We had two big guys that was really, Jarrell Wright was really good. Really good. He reminded me of Jimmy Wright that played for us. And we had one of the smart. We had a big kid named Steven Zach, who was so good and smart, man. God, dog, was this guy smart. I mean, he was a big guy, man. He would change the angles of the screens. He would make the right passes. He would just win us. We had this guy named DJ. It was just a perfect group. It actually remind you of the group that went with URI to the Elite Eight. It reminds you of that group.
Oh,
you know
wow.
what I mean? But,
they were Final Four in my. They were really Final Four.
They should have went to the Final Four, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about a group that just meshed real good. And the key was, I thought, with that group was that we got Tyrone Garland to buy coming off the bench as a sixth man, right? Who really was a starter. And he did that. We were set, man. Oh, man, that's a good group, man. We beat a good Butler team who was number 9 in the country. We beat a good Villanova team who was like number 10 or 15 or something like that. We beat a good VCU team at VCU who was 14th or 15th in the country. I mean, we beat some guys, man. And then we got into the tournament and got a good draw, man. And them guys played. They just played.
Wow. Well, you know, we have a lot. I could go on forever, and I don't want to take up your whole Sunday, but I do, for the listeners, there's a bunch of questions, and I advise you to please put them in the comments field, and I'm going to get with Pappy, and we'll have those answered too, because I'm going to let you go, Pappy, and you know, we learned so much about you today. I've had some great guests on, and you are right up there with anyone. Thanks so much for coming in.
Well, I tell you what, man, I feel I appreciate you, man, for even thinking of bringing me on this, man. And Silk had told me about it before, and Tyson had texted me about it. But there's one thing that someone tell you about something, but to experience is another thing, man. And I enjoyed myself, man. And you got some more guys that you're gonna bring on, man, from Rhody Nation, man, that are really good. And I appreciate being a part of it. Thank you so much, man. I really do, man. I don't take it for granted at all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And to end things, obviously, go Rhody.
No question. Rhody Blue, man. Go Rhody.
Okay.
Don't get no better than that. Yeah.
Thanks again, Pappy. And for our fans, don't forget to stay on. We're going to watch some more bonus coverage of Rhode Island Duke epic game. I wish Pappy was on that team because they would have definitely taken out Duke. Have a good one, Pappy.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you, man. Stay safe.
Okay, you too. We'll stay in touch.
For sure. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Go Hornets.
That's right. Go Hornets.
Okay.
Look out.
Okay, I'm watching.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Okay.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah.
All right. Great.